All right, one last look at your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on your Monday morning. A couple accidents to report, several accidents on I-20 westbound specifically, one at exit 80, which is Clemson Road, one at exit 76B, which is Alpine Road, and one at exit 73, which is at I-277. Also have accidents at Two Notch and Beltline, Sparkleberry near Two Notch, and I-77 northbound also at Two Notch. Today, high of 86 with a slight breeze. Tomorrow, 81 and cloudy. Wednesday, 83 and sunny. Currently 62 in Columbia. That's traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the early game. Nine o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. Tyler Head, Jack Veltri. The reaction Monday we don't look forward to on the heels of the first loss of the season. How are we doing today, Jack?
Doing good, man. Doing as good as you can for a Monday. It's always the worst day of the week, but I'm actually looking forward to this because, we have not had one of these yet this season. And golly, I do remember the ones we had last year where
there were some bad ones.
I mean, it does not get any. I'll always remember Ole Miss week, the week after, like the day after, or the Monday after that game, and I mean, it was bad then. And I expect some calls today, some people that are very frustrated, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to be pissed off about what happened the other day. That was a awful performance. I mean, embarrassing on all fronts. But hey, look, you move on. You talk about it today, you feel better about it after talking about it, you move on, and you get ready for a really big game coming up this weekend.
Oh, yeah, a lot of opportunity to vent your frustrations today on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, as well as the Firehouse Subs text line at 803-404-6400. I'll advise you to call if you want to call in during the commercial breaks because I am producing as well. We'll get to as many of your thoughts as we can over the course of the show. I feel like we need to start things off with our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up because that might be about the only dose of positivity we're going to get today. So let's go ahead and do that.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9s. Unfortunately, we didn't get to hear this as much Saturday as we wanted to because it was a pretty one-sided game for the most part, at least on the scoreboard, as Vanderbilt ends up coming in and picking up the 31-7 victory over South Carolina, snapping a 16-year losing streak. We discussed this the other day. I was in middle school. You were in elementary school the last time that Vanderbilt beat South Carolina. All things do unfortunately come to an end, and that was the case on Saturday.
It was. And look, I think we all had this fear in the back of our minds, like, This isn't the old Vanderbilt anymore. This isn't the Vanderbilt that we grew up with. The one that, God, you remember the Alabama game when that little guy talks all that mess, and he got that team lost like 59-0, and then
they got bludgeoned immediately after that because that's what happens to Vanderbilt.
Yeah. When you come to our house, you're gonna learn some SEC ball. I think that's what he sounded like, something like that. But yeah, I mean, you had that. I mean, so many moments where it's like Vanderbilt, just for whatever reason, every single year, regardless of if South Carolina was good, bad, terrible, mediocre, did not matter the season. Carolina always found a way to win that game. I don't know why. Can't explain it. But I mean, look, Vanderbilt's a much improved team this year, as we all know. They got a good offense. They got a pretty good defense. I will say, I think South Carolina didn't help their case at all in this game half the time with the way they played, especially once 16 went down in this one, which I'm sure we'll get into plenty. But there's a lot. I think this just was the microcosm of all the things that had been going wrong earlier on in the season through the first 2 weeks. You were able to kind of get by because your defense stepped up and your special teams was great. Vicari Swain scoring touchdowns. But when you didn't have that in this game, when your defense gives up 31 points, you didn't get a special team score in this game, you missed a field goal. Punting was pretty good. And then your offense didn't really do much after Lenore Sellers went out. That kind of just boiled down to the fact that this was a really bad game for the Gamecocks.
I do actually want to start out with Vanderbilt to begin with, because I think it's only fair to do that because they did end up winning the game. They are a team that right now understands they have a window, right? Vanderbilt, for our entire lives and pretty much the history of the program, has been awful. They've been the doormat of the SEC. Again, the team that when you look on the schedule, you go ahead and mark yourself a W because most everybody thinks, hey, we should be good enough to beat Vanderbilt year in and year out. And coming away from this game on Saturday, there's a lot of that sense of, oh, my God, I can't believe we lost to Vanderbilt, because we're so inclined to see that V on the helmet and just think they're awful. Well, they're not. They're a good team this year, and I think they're going to be a very good team this year. I don't think they're going to make the playoff or anything like that, but I think they're going to be really good by Vanderbilt standards. But they're a program that looks at what they have right now at quarterback, at, talent around him on offense, what they have on defense, and realize they have a window that could be extremely small. That window could close at the end of this year when Diego Pavia, I think, finally runs out of eligibility. So they're squeezing the life that they can out of what they have right now, trying to maximize on it while they can. Because, again, they could go back to being 2-10 next year for all I know. But for right now, that's a really good team that has the ability to give anybody in the SEC a game, I feel like. And, again, they are doing everything they can within their power to make sure they maximize the potential of a very special quarterback that they've not seen in a very long time. Unfortunately, I can't say the same thing about South Carolina, which leads us to a lot of the frustrations from Saturday night. Now, again, the big story here is Lenore Sellers gets hurt right before halftime, and you lose him for the rest of the game. That being said, if Sellers finishes that game, if he plays all 4 quarters, I still don't know if South Carolina wins it.
No, I don't think South Carolina wins at that. Well, okay, they were down by 2 scores at that point, if I'm remembering
correctly. They were
correctly.
down 14-7 when Sellers went out.
Well, no, I'm talking about kind of later in the game, especially. But yes, you're right. Right before halftime, they're down by 1 score. And let's not forget, he also did throw that interception.
He did
earlier on in the game. I really feel like that changed the momentum in this game, honestly, when that interception happened, because South Carolina was just moving down the field, no problem. And honestly, the offense looked pretty sharp in that first half. I think the blocking was very good up front from the offensive line. I mean, did you see that pancake that Shed Surratt and Tro Ball had on that double team?
No, the offensive line, they had their best game of the entire season. It wasn't perfect, but it was marginally better than what we had seen the prior 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few plays that you want back, I think, with some of the blocking up front, how the linebacker just went untouched to Sellers to, injure him. That was not ideal. I mean, I think on that play, Tro kind of tried to pick up on a double team there.
Yep. On the nose tackle that had the interception. So, yeah, he was double teaming with Boaz, and then here comes, the Patterson, the linebacker, with free reign.
The problem was in that play, you just had nobody else to protect him on that play. I mean, there was no running back in the backfield, no tight end as an H-back or something, just nobody else back there. So, it's an unfortunate situation that happened, and glad there was targeting on the play, though it was at the expense of what could have been a potential big gain on that next play, which that was ridiculous, by the way, that they got the play. I mean, I know we're kind of just all over the place so far this morning, but it's the refs, how can you – I keep watching that play back. So they get the snap off with Luke Doty in there. 2 seconds after the ball's already snapped, he's in his drop back. He throws the pass to Nick Arbor. Refs blow the whistle. Oh. Hold on. We're going to review it for targeting. I think you'd be okay if they just let it play out. Like, because I mean, you look at the play there; it's a simple slant to Nick, and I mean, look, the defenders slowed down once the whistle was blown, but I think Nick is at least picking up a huge gain on that play, don't you think?
Oh yeah, no, that play, I don't know if it goes all the way for a touchdown, but it certainly puts you in a pretty good spot to at least start Luke Doty taking over there. But yeah, the officials, that entire last 2 minutes of the half was a mess. And, with the way Vanderbilt runs their offense, they did eat up a lot of clock. And my brain just works this way because of working in sports radio for as long as I have. I always look at the length of games, how fast we're going, the pace of the first half, pace of the second half, all those kind of things. We breezed through the first 28 minutes in an hour, right? And you're like, oh man, you might get to halftime in an hour 10, maybe an hour 15 or something like that. And then the last 2 minutes before half were a complete disaster. And, again, we know the SEC officiating crews are not the best, but the handling of the Lenore Sellers injury into the targeting call was the most, kerfuffled thing, disjointed thing I've ever seen, right? Because, again, he's laying on the ground for a couple minutes while they're getting him up and getting him off to the sidelines. And at that point in time, did nobody buzz in and say, hey, while the quarterback is down, with a concussion, maybe we should look at this for targeting? And again, when you watch the replay, it only takes one look to see, yes, he hit him basically in the jaw of the helmet, which is what gave him the concussion and knocked him out of the game. It didn't take long, even when they did decide to review it, to finally say, yeah, there was targeting on the play, 15 yards, Patterson's ejected, and whatever. But the fact that you waited all the way until Sellers is walked off the field, Doty comes in, they line up, and then they snap the ball basically as you're blowing the whistle, it's ridiculous. It shouldn't happen.
It was just bad. I mean, the refs were awful in this game, but I also do feel like, that play, that sequence there, the interception earlier in the game, a few stops later in the game that Vanderbilt's defense got in the red zone. I think South Carolina left so many points on the board in this game, and I don't know exactly how much they actually really left on the board, but there was at least 2 or 3 scores I think that they probably could have gotten.
Sure,
for sure. Even the 2-minute drive before the end of the half, I'm trying to remember the sequence. I mean, they obviously missed the 53-yard field goal, but I mean, you're moving down the field and you have penalties and all this and that. Penalties were also a killer in this game. I mean,
yeah,
you just made so many mistakes in this game that it's not the ref's fault. It's not on the fact that you lost Lenore Sellers. That hurt, obviously, but at the end of the day, you still had opportunities to cash in with Luke Doty, and you just couldn't do so.
It was execution failure for Carolina because, and we'll get into this in a second, they did actually move the ball decently throughout the game, but you couldn't finish drives, whether it be from turnover on downs, interceptions, those kind of things, just turnovers in general, that ultimately plagued this team, and it sucks, right? Because you felt like this was going to be a 4-quarter fight. It's going to be a competitive game against what is a good team in Vanderbilt, and you just couldn't hang with them at the end of the day. And yeah, the penalties were in and of itself their own issue, both the ones that were called against South Carolina that were justified and ones that were maybe, a little bit questionable. But regardless, you're sitting here at 2-1 now, 0-1 in conference play. It's not a great way to start things off for what we've talked about is a daunting challenge ahead of you with the rest of this schedule.
I mean, you got all these SEC games coming up, 7 of them over the next however many weeks at this point. I mean, it's going to be really tough, and this is that time where you kind of just have to look yourself in the mirror and just figure out, okay, whether it's making hard decisions or kind of just adjusting some things or kind of just coming to the reality that there are a lot of problems and they need to be fixed. And it's just, it has not been good enough through 3 weeks. I mean, you're playing against Vanderbilt, an FCS team, and Virginia Tech, and you just have not looked that great, honestly. A
Virginia Tech team that now that they've fired Brent Pry might legitimately be the worst team in Power 4 this year.
Oh, yeah. Now that Stanford's won a game, and I mean, UCLA is awful as well, but as we'll get into later on, but I mean, Virginia Tech's probably one of the worst teams in Power 4 right now. They were down 28-0 to Old Dominion friendly Old Dominion that South Carolina knows all too well.
By the way, funny enough, the Brent Pry era both started and ended with losses to Old Dominion.
I saw that. That was just for whatever reason. ODU, I think ODU's all of their FBS wins, their Power 4 wins, have come against Virginia Tech, which is just remarkable to say the least.
Shouldn't happen. We got a lot of thoughts on this game. Want to get your thoughts as well, Ian. 803-404-6100. If you want to call, do so during the commercial break. I'll be able to pick up the phone then. But it is Reaction Monday, and we got a lot to dive into as the morning rolls along here in the Extra Point on the Game. It's all right here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. As we just talked about, it was kind of a rough weekend. Well, you know what makes everything better? How about a nice cheeseburger? Did you know September 18th is National Cheeseburger Day? That is coming up later on this week. And what better way to celebrate than with Twin Peaks well-seasoned, smashed, and seared-to-order cheeseburger topped with your choice of cheese. Paired up with a 22-ounce Coors Light or Miller Lite all day long. If not in a drinking mood, just grab a cheeseburger with a tea or soda bundled together all day long. And you can come say hello at one of the favorite holidays of Twin Peaks, that being National Cheeseburger Day. The football keeps on rolling. Got some games tonight. Obviously, you'll get week number 4 of the college football season started later on this week. And you know there's no better place to park yourself on any football viewing day than one of the friends over at Twin Peaks. TV as far as the eye can see, tons of delicious food, and of course, those 29-degree draft beers. All this and more with our friends at Twin Peaks.
Yeah, he's an older guy. Certainly some plays that he would like to have back, but he's a 6-year senior and guy that we believe in and the team believes in and trusts, and thought he did, okay. It wasn't, none of us were good enough tonight. Just when you get beat 31-7, no one's good enough.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Peltry along with you on your reaction Monday here on the game. Coach Beamer on Saturday night after the 31-7 loss to Vanderbilt discussing Luke Doty's performance as, again, Lenore Sellers goes out with a concussion right there at the end of the first half, and Doty, the 6th-year senior, is thrust into duty. And, look, we knew this was the plan, as Beamer talked about several times in the offseason, that, hey, if Sellers were to go down for some kind of reason, Luke Doty, given his experience, would be the guy to step in and basically try and keep things on track, right? Because he does have the experience of being starting quarterback in the SEC that Aaron Noland and Cutter Woods just simply don't have. I can understand that. I can respect that thought process. We saw very quickly, though, on Saturday night why Luke Doty didn't quite cut it as a quarterback, because, and God love him, right? He tries hard, gives 110%, loves the university, all that kind of stuff is great. And he had some gritty, tough runs where he wasn't afraid of contact. But, man, the throws, underthrowing, overthrowing, bad reads, like it wasn't pretty.
No, it was not pretty. And Shane was even asked about it during the Sunday teleconference yesterday. And, apparently there was a little bit of thought of maybe putting a Aaron Noland or Cutter Woods in kind of as the game wore on. And, it was a 2-score game going into the fourth quarter. And he did explain that he felt like Doty gave them the best chance to try and make a comeback at the end there. But, you never got to see Air or Cutter, and I think a lot of Gamecock fans, you look at it, there's two ways to look at it. You got Doty, the veteran. He's been here. That gives you a lot of experience. That he started some games, won a few. So you obviously maybe want to get him in just to be the backup because of that. But on the flip side, it's like you have these two guys. Yes, they may be inexperienced. Maybe they haven't played in the game yet. I mean, Air's only played one game and whatnot. So far at South Carolina, Cutter hasn't. Maybe you want to get those guys those valuable reps later on in the game because they are the future of your program after this season. So it's it's tricky because you love Doty and he's done a lot of good here at South Carolina, but we have to be real with ourselves. He's not the best quarterback out there. I mean, there's a reason why he moved from quarterback to receiver in the first place.
Yes.
And it's not just because there were guys that were, a lot of other guys that were better ahead of him. Like, that's part of it, but part of it has to do with the fact of, like you said, Tyler, missing on some throws and whatnot, and the offense just did not operate the same once Sellers left this game.
And here's that cut, as you alluded to, from Beamer last night on the teleconference when asked if there was ever any thought to playing Cutter Woods or Aaron Noland at any point on Saturday.
I thought Luke was doing some good things operating the offense, and certainly he needs to be better. He'll be the first to tell you that, but he did some really good stuff managing the offense, making calls, directing traffic, making throws. Mike and I had some discussion about both backup quarterbacks, Cutter and Air, both in regards to potentially putting them in at some point as the game went. Not necessarily because Luke was playing bad, but just to get some other guys some experience. But we didn't. I was confident that we were going to go downfield, score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion, and make it a 2-score game, and almost return the kickoff for a touchdown. We're a play away or a block away from returning that one all the way, and really felt confident about us being able to win the game in the fourth quarter, and felt like Luke gave us the best opportunity to do that as we got into the fourth quarter. But yes, we did discuss it briefly, but in order to win the game, felt like Luke gave us the best chance at that point.
There comes a point, though, in my opinion, where you're down by as much as Carolina was. Again, it was a 24-point game. I didn't need to see Luke Doty in those last 2 drives, maybe even 3 drives, because the game is out of hand at that point in time. And again, Luke Doty is not going to be your future at this quarterback spot. He is out of eligibility after this year. I'm 99% sure, unless he can sue the NCAA. But even then, he's not somebody you're looking at saying, okay, this is the future of our program. Let's go out there and get as many reps as possible. The experience is what allowed him to be the guy to take over when Sellers went down. But your future of your quarterback room that could come as soon as next year if Sellers decides to turn pro is Air Noland and Cutter Woods. And as much as you may not think that they're ready at this point in time, put them out there. Let them go play against an SEC team to see how they do, whether it's Cutter or Air, whoever's ahead in that competition. Just put them out there and see what happens. Like this was been the time to figure that out, and maybe, because again, what you see in practice and what you see through camp is what dictates who your backup quarterbacks are going to be and what order you list them in. So maybe if you throw Air Noland out there and he sparks the offense, then God forbid Sellers is out again this weekend, maybe you think, okay, maybe we have a chance to do something with Air Noland against Missouri, so maybe you start him this upcoming weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hurt to at least try. So I was wondering why that wasn't done on Saturday at the end of the game.
The best experience you can get is in game. I mean, it's practice is one thing, but I mean, these guys are probably going up against, maybe they are, serving as the scout team quarterbacks or whatever and going up against the first team, but more likely than not, they're probably also going up against backups and stuff. So, I mean, look, even if they struggle out there in those reps they get in a game, at least they're getting that experience that they probably desperately need. Like, it was good to get Air in there for that one drive against SC State. You would have liked to get Cutter in there as well for multiple drives, right? You would like to get those guys in there plenty, but that just has not been the case so far early on this season. And I get why Luke is the backup right now, because he does have those years of experience and stuff, but that does not mean he is the right quarterback to lead this offense. And again, love Luke. He's done a great job here at South Carolina. The type of veteran you want on your team. But at the end of the day, you're trying to win football games. And I don't know if Luke gives you the best chance to do that as the backup quarterback.
We got Ray and Ken holding on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll get you guys coming up next. Also, if you want to call in, again, I advise to do that during the commercial breaks. That way I'm able to get over there and answer those calls. So we'll get to some of your thoughts coming up next as we react to South Carolina's first loss of the season, the 31-7 to Vanderbilt on Saturday night as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyrod and Jack Belcher and your Reaction Monday here on the game.
Come on. Come on. Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system, and there may come that point in time where your heating goes out, your air conditioning unit isn't working. Maybe you just need an electrical repair. Anything along those lines, AAA can help you out. And speaking of electrical repairs, did you know they also have great deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can help you out. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and no credit check required. So if you're the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't wait. Call AAA Heating and Air today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air. Comfort you can trust.
All right, welcome back in. It is The Extra Point. It's Howard Head and Jack Belcher with you on your Reaction Monday here on the game, unpacking Carolina's first loss of the season, 31-7 to Vandy on Saturday night. We, as always, want to get your thoughts on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines as well as the Firehouse Subs text line. Ken's been holding on for a little bit. Ken, we appreciate you taking your time to call us. What's on your mind this morning?
I just want to say thank you for doing your show. Love the comments. I sort of watch football, maybe like y'all do. I don't know. I watch lines of scrimmage, maybe because I coached. But I watched Vanderbilt's line of scrimmage, and they were very well prepared and very smart on the line of scrimmage. They just made Dylan Stewart look like an average player because they double-teamed him. Our offensive line, I don't know. Is it the coach? Are they not smart enough to comprehend what we're doing? Or they're just not good enough? That's my question. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think firing a coach is going to fix anything. What I saw was both lines of scrimmage got whipped, and when that happens, you don't have much of a chance. I don't care if you're playing a high school team. So I'll listen, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate it there, Ken. 803-404-6100. And the line of scrimmage was something that we talked about so much going into this game that was going to be an interesting battle. And again, we'll give credit where it's due. I thought Carolina's offensive line looked better than they had through the first couple games. Wasn't perfect. There was certainly moments in pass protection that broke down, namely when you allowed a free rushing linebacker to tee off on Sellers that ended up taking him out of the game. So it was far from perfect. A lot of room to improve. I thought running the ball, they were okay. You had a decent enough day on the ground. Rasul Faison finally got rolling a little bit, as it seems like he's kind of firmly established himself as running back number one. And that being said, there's still a lot of room for improvement on Carolina's offensive line. You also lost Casey Henry very early on in the game, so you ended up having Tree out there playing a large majority of the game at the right tackle spot. And again, not using that as an excuse, just kind of pointing out what happened. But I will say it was better than it has been, though that's not a high bar to clear.
It has been. It's definitely been better. From week one until now, the O-line has gotten better. Like, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Like, I thought the blocking on the 4th and 1 play where Rasul Faison gets blown up in the backfield was just really, really bad. And you mentioned it before, the blocking earlier on in this game, like with the linebacker just going home free to Sellers. I mean, that was pretty inexcusable, to be honest. But again, there were signs of growth, and I think that's the big thing. And the offensive line is always one of the first things brought up in terms of when the offense is going bad. It's because it's either Shula or the O-line not protecting. Like, I don't think the O-line was the biggest issue in this game. There were other things that caused this offense to not score points. So,
and I went back and watched the game yesterday, and I made a note of, any time that Sellers had a clean pocket or Doty had a clean pocket, and there was quite a few of those. Like, again, it was better than it had been. And again, you did get a little bit of something going on the ground with Rasul Faison, which was nice to see. Now, there were several times where he did still have to make guys miss or make a cut that ended up allowing the run to be successful. So things to work on, certainly. On the flip side of things, though, I mean, yeah, Carolina was getting pushed off the line of scrimmage by Vanderbilt's offensive line, which is something that we knew that they were going to do. They were obviously a good rushing team, and, they didn't run all over them quite to the tune that they did to Virginia Tech, a week ago, but they ran well enough, which at the end of the day is all that matters. And they busted off some really long runs, including Lassiter that had the 44-yard touchdown run on his only touch of the entire game in that situation. But when they needed a couple yards on the ground, they were able to get it.
They were. I mean, you look at the stat sheet, and nobody really blew you away for Vanderbilt, but it was a lot of guys chipping in and making some plays when they needed to. And that's the type of team that Vanderbilt is. They can really spread you out with the type of guys they have out there.
And that was the thing about this offense that Tim Beck runs, is we know they play a lot of horizontal stuff, right, where they like to shift guys around, use motion pre-snap, and really get to the outside. And that's one thing, going back and watching it again yesterday, that stuck out to me is Carolina was struggling on the perimeter when it came to the run game. And that's, again, where you have to be very fundamentally sound to be able to make your tackles and make your plays. And once they got out to the outside, that's where Vanderbilt had most of their success.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Vanderbilt dominated where they needed to in this game, made the plays when they needed to, and Carolina didn't. It was just simple as that.
Get to more of your thoughts here. Ray has been holding on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Ray, appreciate your call as always. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mel, good morning, first of all. Guys, so many things I could talk about with kickers. Dallas's kicker, just ungodly great. Kirby Smart with 9 lives. I mean, and and I want to talk about as far as I get to the Carolina game. I mean, at that point, usually timeouts are 30 seconds. I'm telling you, when Kirby called that timeout to ice that kicker, it turned into a full timeout. And I was thinking, I said, this kid at Tennessee must not realize this isn't a 30-second timeout because he'd be over there warming up. And I said, oh, he's not going to make this. And, that's Tennessee's bread and butter. They're like kicker you. So what a game that was. But I want to talk about the Carolina game. I'll maybe talk about that game later in the week. I know, Tyler, you were like, wow, what a game there. Not so. But anyway, just execution was pitiful. It was absolutely awful. And I'm not going to put this on the defense because they've done so much. Offensively, you got to do something. I've been very critical on Shula. And, we had a sample size of 3 games and nothing impressed me. Now we got a sample size of 4 games. And, I'll give Elijah credit. I knew things were bad. In the 4 games that, Shula's been our OC, do you know what our average points are for the offense?
Yeah, it's pretty low. It's about 15, 14. Yeah, 13.5. Okay.
13.5. You cannot win that way. And, and I'm just going to say this. If your offense is predicated on the offensive knowledge of Mike Shula and Shane Beamer, you're just not going to be successful. And I hate to put Shane in that category, but he's the one that hires these guys. He's the one that hires the coordinator. He's the one that hires the offensive line coach. I mean, he's got to, there's got to be some accountability. We just can't necessarily go out and blame the position coaches. We got to, it all comes down, from the top, as one caller last show said. I give him the credit. But and I give you an example. Okay, so Clark Lee's a really good defensive coach. When you say Jack.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that is definitely the case.
Yeah. So his first few years at Vandy, the defense always looked good, but they just couldn't score the points, So, that's you're not going to win games if you can't outscore the other opponent. So he went out, and I believe it was Jerry Kill he got from, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, from New Mexico.
No, you're right.
Because he said, well, God, this dude can run an offense. God, this dude can run an offense. Little did he know, or maybe he did know, he was bringing his quarterback too. So that problem was solved right there. Clark Lee's, well, I can run a good defense. I can let this guy run my offense. So they went out and, got the resources, got a guy that could run the offense, got the quarterback. And as one caller said on the last show, what have we done to improve our offense? I mean, it's horrible, and I'm really scared. The fact that we live in the time of the proverbial portal. I mean, it's not like it used to be when you said, well, these guys, they all got another year, they got another 2 years, we'll be better next year. You can't say that no more. Because these guys that are playing in the system, if they have no faith in what you're doing, and they know they are a top-level type of player, man, they're going to jump through that portal.
Yeah.
And that's what really has me afraid with how horrible this offense is, that, that could happen. And I mean, I'm not a fatalistic. I mean, I'm the most positive Gamecock fan normally there is. But you got to be able to read the tea leaves. And I really hope Donati is one of these ADs that doesn't say, well, we'll wait till the end of the year and we'll evaluate then. I hope he's evaluating week to week.
Right.
And I hope he has plans, because you can't no longer say that, you give a guy 5 or 6 years, because the portal has changed everything. If things aren't going right and the vibe isn't there, and we've always had a good vibe there, and this is going to be, like I said last show, this is a watershed for Beamer. He's got to bring this in, or this thing could absolutely come unglued.
Yep.
I'm trying to keep it positive, but man, you got to damn tell it like it is and be a realist as well. But thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Appreciate it as always there, Ray. Again, 803-404 6,100. And offensively, again, we're having the same conversation every single week where the scripted drive is phenomenal, right? Well, what they did to open the game where they marched down the field, scored the touchdown, it was great. Ran a bootleg, ran a couple of Sellers design runs, all great things. And then you pretty much did none of that for the rest of the game. And again, Sellers only played a couple more drives there, but still, there were no more design runs for him. Well, what's the one thing that we talk about this offense lacking in now the 4 games that Shula's called? It's the ability to allow Sellers to use his feet. And again, even the report last week that Sellers was apparently asking for more run plays. And hey, again, you throw him a bone, 2 plays in the first drive, end up working. Okay, cool. And then you don't even attempt that after the fact. Like, it's mind-numbing. Now, that being said, they moved the ball better in this game than they had in the prior 2 games from like a consistency standpoint. You just couldn't finish drives, whether it be turnovers, turnover on downs, whatever it may be. Like, they had, out of the 10 drives in the game, they went more than 6 plays on 7 of them. They crossed the 50-yard line, I think 7 total times, and 6 of the 10 drives went at least 30 yards. Like, that's actually moving the ball a little bit. It's better than going 3 and out consecutively like you did a week ago against SC State, but you just can't finish the drives at the end of the day, which goes back to execution, which does fall in the lap of Shula as well.
It does. I mean, you only scored 7 points in this game, and it just was not good enough. And these are the questions that need to be asked. I mean, why aren't you running more of these quarterback design runs when they work? It's what works with Lenoris. I mean, you're trying so hard to make him this pocket passer when, you know, that's not necessarily his style. It's part of his game, but it's not the full thing. So there's a lot that needs to be resolved with this offense. I mean, 7 points is just not good enough. It's never going to win you a football game. Like you said, you could not finish drives.
More of your thoughts on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines as well as the Firehouse Subs text line. Coming up next is wrap-up hour number 1. It is the Extra Points, Howard Head and Jack Beltry on your Reaction Monday here on The Game.
it's not enough winning football. Told the team before the game, Vanderbilt, that's a team you got to go beat. They're not going to give you anything, and we didn't do that tonight. Way too much self-inflicted stuff. Injury-wise, don't have an update for you on Lenoris or Kaysen, and questions.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Howard Head and Jack Belcher wrapping up hour number 1 on your reaction Monday here on the game. Beamer, as he alluded to a lot in his post-game press conference, not enough winning football, and the effort, to me, wasn't there when it needed to be, especially after Sellers goes out. Your star player goes down. That's the situation where other guys need to step up, do their job to an even higher degree to make sure you stay in that game, and I didn't see it. Again, your players on offense, nobody broke out and made spectacular plays. Defensively, you struggled. You're missing tackles left and right. Like, you didn't play good, sound, fundamental football, and when you lose your best player, you almost have to do that to be able to stay competitive in that game, and that's not what we saw. The effort, it's almost like the air got let out of the team when Sellers went down, and everybody kind of, in a lot of ways, went through the motions the rest of the game.
And again, he's one player. That's the thing that I think we need to point out, is that he's just one player, and he's one of your best players, obviously, but you got to move on, right? Life does not wait for you when something bad happens. You got to just continue to move forward, and Carolina definitely did not. I mean, it obviously affected them the rest of the game, and I mean, like, the way the offense operated just felt different. Doty wasn't completing passes. The play calling, I just feel like, got worse as the game moved along in some respects. So, I mean, look, hopefully you have Sellers this week, but what if you run into the situation again? What if he's not out there again? We're going to have the same exact results. I mean, you definitely want him out there if you can have him, but obviously if he gets hurt again, he's got a history of getting hurt, so hopefully he's able to be out there.
Again, it's your reactions as well on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, Firehouse Subs text line. Our guy Casey and Gilbert has been waiting on the phone lines. Casey, good to hear from you. What's on your mind today?
Not much, fellas. Hope you were well.
Doing well.
Doing good.
I'll start this by saying I pride myself, especially with the age that I'm at as a Gamecock fan, on how composed I can keep myself versus in my younger years how I used to react when Carolina didn't do good. But that last touchdown about made me want to punch my TV, because one thing I'm not used to seeing is the Gamecocks completely giving up. And that last touchdown, it shouldn't have happened. I don't care what string was out there or who the hell was playing. It just shouldn't have happened. So that's probably one of the things that irks me the most, but maybe the biggest, is our inability to close down 3rd and long. We did pretty good a lot of times getting them in a 3rd and long situation, but come to play, we lose somebody in the middle of the field, or we can't tackle at the line of scrimmage, and it's really irking me. Offense, I get it. They had issues and Lenoris got hurt, but my biggest fears are what happened on defense during that game and the give up. It's just something I'm not used to seeing as a Gamecock fan. I want to hear what y'all think. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, man, absolutely. 803-404-6100. And we talked about how valuable 3rd downs are going to be in this game, because that's a Vanderbilt team that wants to control the ball, wants to chew up the clock, and they were able to do that, and they converted half of their 3rd downs. They were 6 for 12 in this game, but their average down distance was 7. Casey's right. They continually held Vanderbilt into 3rd and long-ish scenarios, and they were consistently able to convert those. Coincidentally, on the other side of things, Carolina was 4 of 12, only 33%, and their average down distance was 9.3. They lost the 3rd down battle, and again, there's a lot of other reasons why Carolina lost this game, but not being able to get off the field on 3rd down certainly didn't help.
No, it killed them in this game. I mean, they were 5 of 6 in the first half, right? I mean, it was really, really rough for Carolina. The missed tackles were just through the roof in this game. So many problems defensively in this game, and the offense is going to get talked about more just because of the fact that it's been the talking point for a few weeks now, because the defense and special teams had been pretty good, but the defense was probably one of the worst aspects of this game on Saturday. I mean, it's not even like Vanderbilt was that good. I mean, they're a good team, but I don't think they blew anyone away offensively. It's just that they make these tackles, maybe the game's a little bit different. If they get these stops, the game's probably different, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, Carolina outgained them, by the way, 328 to 323.
I saw that, which is the craziest thing. I mean, it's a 5-yard difference, but still.
And look, just because you outgain someone doesn't mean you're going to always win the game, but you shouldn't outgain a team and still lose by 24 points.
No.
That should, statistically speaking, that shouldn't happen.
No, and you got to finish drives. It's the thing we keep saying, beating
You
the
do.
drum here.
And I just listening this morning, reading the reactions online, I've never seen a shift so quickly from, hey, we might be a playoff caliber team to, oh my God, we might not win 6 games and go to a bowl. And again, some of that maybe is overreacting, but like the fan base, rightfully so, is very concerned right now.
Yeah, welcome to life in Gamecock country, because
there's the SC PTSD again.
These fans, I mean, they you gotta love them. They're diehard, but at the end of the day, I mean, things can change rather quickly.
Rodney, we'll get to you to start hour number 2, as well as some of the thoughts on the Firehouse Subs text line, as well as Reaction Monday rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on the X Point here on the game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. Once again, as I was driving in this morning, I got behind one of the Canty Foundation Specialist vans, and I thought to myself, well, they must be on their way to help somebody out with their foundation issues. And I'll remind you once again, if you notice things around your home that are a little bit odd, you need to check out our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists. Those things include cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors or windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these problems with your home, you could have serious foundation problems. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com, and they'll send a pro out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you can live worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialist. Welcome back in hour number 2. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Reaction Monday as we continue to break down South Carolina's 31-7 loss to Vanderbilt on Saturday. A loss that has dropped South Carolina from being number 11 in the AP poll to completely unranked. And you know what? Can't say I disagree with them. Carolina's one quality win is, again, what I think might be the worst team in FBS with Virginia Tech, who just fired their coach yesterday. Again, you played an uncomfortable game against an FCS opponent, and you got beat by 24 points at home by Vanderbilt. Like, again, you're not going to win every single home game, but you shouldn't get thoroughly dominated by anybody, and that's what happened last night, or Saturday night.
There's nothing quality about that win over Virginia Tech, by the way. I mean, Tech is just not a good team, and Carolina was struggling against them. I mean, 2-point game going into the fourth quarter, and you need a special teams touchdown to win that game. So, again, Carolina has looked pretty rough so far this year. I mean, again, that SC State game was also very rough. And if it weren't for Vakari Swain having 2 punt return touchdowns in the second quarter, that is probably a tie game going into halftime. I mean, that's pitiful.
I will say real quick, since you mentioned Vakari Swain, when he had his first punt return of the game on Saturday night, I've never heard a louder cheer for somebody just fielding a punt than we did with Swain. And he did. He made, got a couple yards out of it. Obviously didn't end up doing anything crazy on Saturday night, but the anticipation every time he actually gets to return a punt is so high right now.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, people want to see him do it again, and I don't know if he's going to do it again. I mean, it's tough to return punts for touchdowns more, and honestly, I mean, going against SEC teams that are going to be ready for it, that makes it all the more tougher.
Get some of your thoughts here. Firehouse text line. KT from Lexington says, in my opinion, we kind of saw Saturday night Wes Seller's been handcuffed from running. There's literally nobody talented enough behind him to win a game if he goes down. And while, yes, it's concerning that Sellers has been neutered a little bit in terms of his running ability, I would also venture to say that there's not enough guys around him on offense right now that we know of that can come in and help out whoever comes in behind him, right? Like Luke Doty comes in at quarterback. We know what he is. He's been a 6-year player that's bounced around to every conceivable position. He's not a starting quarterback in the SEC for a reason. But in situations like that, that's where you have to rely on, like, hey, playmakers, help this guy out, help dig him out of a hole, make his job easier. And nobody really did that.
No. I mean, it was just a rough game for this offense. And Lenore's was doing good in there, and who knows how the game looks offensively if he were in there the entire game, but they wouldn't have beaten Vanderbilt, not with the way the defense was playing. So that is, it's concerning what the offense is doing, but at the same time, there were some good things to take away. Like the first half was pretty good, all things considered. It's just you got to be able to finish drives.
Get some more of your thoughts here on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Rodney has been hanging on for a bit. Rodney, appreciate your call. What's on your mind today?
Good morning, y'all. I've been going to Carolina games for 20 years, and I can count on my hands how many games I miss. And I'm tired of full house, excited, and we just lay an egg. We play better when we are the underdogs at Williams-Brice, and I think that's just a mental thing. And Dylan Stewart, he's the best player we got on defense, but when he got that personal foul, he took his helmet off and sat his behind on that bench, I'm done with him. He's a head case, and we gave up, and that is not the Carolina way. And I just needed to get that off my chest. We gave up, and that's we need to do better.
Yeah, appreciate the call there, Rodney. 803-404-6100 for the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. And we haven't even gotten to the Dylan Stewart thing yet, but again, he has the personal foul, ended up getting ejected from the game, and he's a phenomenal player. We know that he is an incredible talent that could very well be hearing his name called in the first round of the draft, not this upcoming spring, but the next spring, just given how physically gifted he is. And he had a frustrating night because, rightfully so, Vanderbilt was running away from him. They were trying to keep him out of the game as much as possible, and they did a good job with that. And again, early on in the game, he has a situation where, he gets called for roughing the passer. Now, again, was that ticky-tack? Sure. because when you look at the situation that, you could have easily have not called that. The referees did. And then he gets the other personal foul later on in the game that ends up getting him ejected. And again, he's, a second-year guy, but there's a lot of maturity that he needs to continue to do because you can't put yourself in situations where you as the best player in your team are getting yourself ejected.
No, it's hurting the team when, again, I think the roughing the passer calls in this game were a little bit over the top. I don't agree with the one on Brian Thomas where he, as soon as Diego Pavia lets the ball loose out of his hands on that one throw, obviously BT hit him, and I think it was one of those things where, how are you supposed to coach that? That's the thing that Shane was questioning last night because he did send that play into the SEC, as well as the one where Dylan pushed Diego on the I can't even remember what it was, but again, just
he took an extra step or two after Diego had gotten the ball away and shoved. And again, I've seen that not called. I've seen that called. I don't think it was the best penalty called. Regardless, they called it. And at the end of the day, that's
nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it. And then you have the other personal foul later in the game where he's going back and forth with the same offensive lineman that had trash talked him earlier in the week, right? Bryce Henderson, who said the thing about he's whatever. Did that get in his head? I think it very much did.
He baited him on that, and he got what he wanted. He got the penalty on Stewart and got him ejected. And look, let's call it what it is. Bryce Henderson was right. Dylan Stewart was whatever in this game. He was not a factor, and that is, look, Dylan's got to be able to control. I don't know if temper's the right word or whatever it is. He's got to control himself out there because we saw it last year with the whole, the shotgun thing, and that was such a stupid thing to do when you're down by 20-something points. Congrats, you got a sack in a 27-3 game. That's great. But now we're kind of seeing him become frustrated when they're double teaming him and they're going away from him. And understandable. But there's no place to just go back and forth. That's what he wants.
Yeah,
that's what Henderson wanted there, and you gave him that. You gave him that ammunition he needed, and it got you ejected.
Yeah, again, as the best player on the defense, you have to have more composure than that. Especially now being a second-year guy, those situations you can't have. And off of Bryce Henderson and his trash talking, nameless texter says on the text line, night game in front of a salted SU crowd. If you can't show up for that environment, you don't deserve to win. And it's not, to me, it's not just the fact that it was a home game, a lot of hype, this being a good team coming in here, but the fact that this was a Vanderbilt team that talked about Carolina as much as they did in the offseason. Diego Pavia, hey, I'm circling, game number 3, and Bryce Henderson said what he said earlier on in the week. Typically when you're watching a game, where one team is really running their mouth, you get kind of a sense of an edge that the other team plays with that seems to be kind of fueled by that bulletin board material, quote unquote. I didn't see that on Saturday night. Peyton Williams had the one really good hit early on in the game, but I just didn't see any of those plays where I said, man, these guys are playing with their hair on fire, trying to prove a point, trying to shut these guys up. I didn't see it.
No, I didn't see it either. I saw Vanderbilt playing with fire. Look, Clark Lee said earlier in the week, or I think it was somebody had told me that they're basically playing with house money, right? They obviously came in as the underdog. They had all this trash that they were talking throughout the week and stuff, and they backed it up. Plain and simple, they backed it up. They won handily in this game, and now they're a top 20 team in the country, likely going to be 5-0 going into the Alabama game, and on the verge of having a really, really good season potentially, one of their best since James Franklin was here.
And I'll repeat what I said earlier. You have to give Vanderbilt credit because they came in and executed the game plan that they wanted to and won the game. And they're a program right now that understands they have a window of opportunity, and they are doing everything they can to capitalize on that window and squeeze every single ounce they can out of Diego Pavia while they have him. Because when he leaves, when his eligibility is finally done after this year, unless he sues the NCAA again, I don't know what Vanderbilt is. They may go back to being a 2-10 team. They may continue to be a very solid to good team in the SEC. I don't know, and they don't know that either. So while they have the right mix of guys and the offensive scheme that works perfectly with the quarterback that you have, they are maximizing their potential with it so far this year, and I can't say the same thing for South Carolina.
No, I can't either. I mean, South Carolina just here's the question. If you're struggling against these types of teams that you played so early on in the year, again, 0-3 Virginia Tech, who fired their coach, SC State, an FCS school, and then Vanderbilt, a team that right now is doing very, very well, your best opponent so far this year, but it's Vanderbilt at the end of the day. I mean, the schedule gets tough from here. Your next 7 games are against, SEC opponents, and 6 of them are ranked inside the top 25. And what do you do?
We looked at these first 5 games of the season saying, okay, maybe you go on the road and lose to Missouri or something and start the season, 4-1 at worst. Well, now your one mulligan's out the window. You still got to go on the road to Missouri, where you're a 2-touchdown underdog, by the way. Oh, by the way, after that, then you still have the daunting task of playing all those ranked teams at the back end of the season, LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Clemson, Texas A&M. Again, it really feels like you're trending in the wrong direction right now unless you get something figured out in these next couple weeks that establishes, to me, an offensive identity, because I don't know what this team's offensive identity is. And if you continue to go out there barely managing to score 15 points, you're not going to win most of these games.
Until they figure things out, they are a 5 or 6 win team at best. That's what I see right now with this team. I don't think they are winning these games against the LSU. They're certainly not winning against LSU. Alabama. I mean, Alabama's playing a lot better now. Oklahoma's been very good to start this year. Like, that month of October could be brutal. And I don't see many Kentucky, Coastal Carolina, maybe Clemson. I mean, that would get you 3 wins right there. And then you got to find a way. They always seem to find a way to win a game they're not supposed to every single year. And I'm sure that'll be the case again this year. But the point being, we talked about this team being a playoff caliber team less than a week ago. And now we're talking about them. Are they even going to make a bowl game potentially?
I will say this. The one caveat is we talk about a lot. Beamer teams play their best ball as the season rolls along. We've seen a lot of shaky Septembers, so, I don't completely give up yet because this team has a history of getting better as the season goes along, but there's a lot of things that have to improve if they want to turn around what has been a shaky start of the season, to say the least. We'll get to some more of your thoughts on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry along with you here on Your Reaction Monday on The Game.
When it comes to HVAC replacements, AAA Heating and Air has your back. They offer guaranteed financing, 12 months with no payments or interest, and a 15-year warranty on parts and labor. If you need a new system, which that could certainly come at some point, maybe your heating goes out, your AC unit isn't working, and maybe it's just time to get that replacement, well, AAA is the best to go to in the Midlands. But here's the question. What if you don't need a replacement? What if you just need a repair? I got some good news for you. AAA Heating and Air has you covered there as well. They offer up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check for homeowners who just need repairs. So all you need is just to have a valid bank account, and they'll handle the rest. So whether you need a replacement or repair, AAA Heating and Air has unbeatable options for you. Give them a call today and get your comfort back on track.
just gotta play better. I can't remember play for play that drive. Hell, I'm sorry. I mean, they had a couple explosives, and when you give up explosives, it's probably because you're not where you're supposed to be.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Hour. Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Reaction Monday as we break down South Carolina's 31-7 loss to Vanderbilt over the weekend, a loss that dropped South Carolina completely out of the AP Top 25 as they fall to 2-1, and now get set to head on the road to take on Missouri this upcoming weekend in a game that we thought was going to be the most challenging of all the first 5 this season, with the Missouri team that maybe looks a little bit better than we thought, and we'll certainly get into them as the week goes along. But want to get more of your thoughts on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Andrew's been hanging on for a little bit. Wants to talk about Luke Doty, who came in relief of Sellers on Saturday. Andrew, appreciate your call. What's on your mind today?
Man, I appreciate you taking it. I thought Luke Doty did kind of what we asked him to do. Now I am biased. I've loved the guy since he got here. I thought he should have tried in the transfer portal to do something. I thought he was a great athlete, and he fits in, so I am a little bit biased, but I didn't think the play calling behind him was really encouraging for him. We had a lot of bubble screens. I mean, he was throwing slant routes and hitch routes, I thought, fairly well. I know they're only 6 to 8 yards at a time, and then that first slant to Nick Harbor, that was the game changer. That, of course, the penalty was deserved, but to stop the field of play like that sucked. But I thought Doty did okay for the most part. I mean, I thought we kind of saw, again, the holes in the offensive line. Just maybe not working together. I don't know what. I'm not an X's and O's guys on the offensive line at all, so I can't really make any kind of assumptions or anything like that. But I enjoyed seeing Luke play. I wish things would have gone better. And I just kind of thought maybe the play calling behind him wasn't really conducive for success for him. And I just kind of wanted to hear what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I appreciate the call there, 803-404-6100. And for one, let's give Luke, the situation here. That's a tough spot to come into in a one-score game against an SEC opponent, right before the half. Obviously, the offense had sputtered a bit after having a very successful opening drive. That's tough for anyone. So that wasn't an easy situation for Luke Doty to come into. And I thought he made some really good effort plays. I mean, there was a couple times when he flushed out of the pocket, when the protection kind of broke down, and made some tough, gritty runs, and did make a couple of decent throws in some of those short to intermediates that really kind of fit what his skill set is. Again, he's not somebody that's going to kill you down the field with a deep ball, and the farther down the field he throws it, the more inaccurate he seems to get. But again, it kind of goes back to what Andrew said there in his call, that it didn't feel like maybe everything that he was being asked to do was fitting to what his skill set is.
No, I mean, definitely not. I feel like you got to probably cater a little bit to what Luke's strengths are, but you also want to use what works well in the offense. Again, Luke's one player as much as Lenore's is one player, and there are 10 other guys in this offense. And you have the running game, which I feel like was better in this game. Faison was pretty good. And I think they continued to try to feed him the ball as the game moved along, but nothing like too explosive compared to what he did. I mean, he was great on that first drive where he scored the touchdown, right? I mean, the offense was humming along early on in this game, but I just felt like there was not necessarily a disconnect, but once Lenore's went down, I feel like that was kind of a real gut punch, and Carolina just, quite frankly, never recovered in a lot of ways.
And again, I'm not absolving Luke Doty from blame, because there were several situations, namely that fourth down throw to Jordan Dingle where he basically threw the ball at his feet, and if he was able to hit him in stride, you probably convert that and are able to keep one of those later offensive drives going. And again, I don't know if you'll go out there and make anything happen and make the game any closer, but that would have at least extended that drive. So again, it falls on everybody. It's play calling, it's execution, it's effort, it's all those kind of things. And again, I go back to my point from earlier. A lot of time, or typically, when you have your star player at quarterback go down, the other guys in the offense help pick them up. But is there a superstar in this offense outside of Lenore Sellers? I don't think there is. Like, again, we finally saw Faison get rolling a little bit, which was nice to see, but I wouldn't say he's a superstar. And, Nick Harper's had a good season so far, but not spectacular. You just don't have anybody that you can say, all right, well, hey, Luke Doty, come in, get the ball to this guy, and he'll take care of the rest. You just don't have that right now.
No, you don't. You don't. And, I'm looking back through last year's offense and stuff and just seeing some of the numbers they'd put up. I mean, so far through the first 4 games under Mike Shula as OC, they've averaged 14.5 points. I mean, that's not good. That is not good. And that's considering the fact that, you got help from your defense and special teams with a few touchdowns on their part. But, go back to last year, you didn't always have that because Beamer ball wasn't what it usually had been in years prior, and even now this year. And then the defense was very good last year, but they weren't, scoring a ton of defensive touchdowns in the later part of the year. I mean, as I'm looking back through certain games and whatnot. But, I mean, the offense, it's been a mess so far this year. And, there's been a few good moments, a few good drives early on. In Saturday's game, you had the opening drive of the season was great. But that's just a few glimpses. You have not seen the full picture be very good overall. And that's why when you look at the stats overall this season, it's not hard to see that South Carolina's offense is probably the worst in the SEC right now.
We'll head out back to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Rooster P been hanging on for a bit. Rooster P, appreciate your call. What's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning, guys. I was hoping you were going to get to me before I got up here to the mountains. I'm on 77. I got some bullet points, I guess you would say. I just want to throw out. Before we even started this season, I just felt like I was proud to be ranked as high as we were, but at the same time, I almost felt like, why were we ranked that high? I don't know. I think it gave them a little bit of a false sense of security, and maybe kind of didn't help as much as it hurt, or hurt more than it helps. Also, props to Luke Doty. That guy stayed around. He could have got in this transfer portal, which I think is, and went somewhere else. He does his best. He's done everything that they've asked him since he's been there. I'm proud of him for that. Thank him for that. Beamer made a comment. I think it was right at halftime when he was going in, when Cole talked to him. He said something about a play that was called. It was an old school play or something. I can't remember exactly what he said, but that almost, to me, was referring to his offensive coordinator play calls. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. And has Lenoir been determined to be out for the next game, or has there been a determination, or will that be during the press conference tomorrow?
Don't mean to cut you off. So what Beamer talked about yesterday on the teleconference was, again, he didn't have an answer after the game on Saturday, but he did say yesterday that they're optimistic that they're going to get not only Lenoris, but Case and Henry back for Saturday's game against Missouri. And he was asked straight up, does Lenoris have a concussion? And he said he doesn't get into specifics with injuries, but obviously the way he got hit, one can imagine that was probably the case. But that's kind of, the situation that they're in right now. Yeah,
we'll find out maybe more tomorrow. And again, we'll get availability reports later on this week because it is an SEC game, but hopefully he does get to play it. And to Rooster P's point, don't take us being critical of Luke Doty as hating on him, because you got to give him a lot of credit. Dude stuck around. He loves South Carolina. He's done everything that's been asked of him. He was just in a tough spot where it was hard to succeed on Saturday night, but I do give him a lot of credit where, he's not giving up, and he gives 110% on every single play, and that's an intangible that I think a lot more players need to have. So credit to him for that. Unfortunately, it just wasn't the best night, and he made some mistakes, and again, the team as a whole did not play the way they needed to.
No, they definitely have not played well enough. I mean, they're 2-1, but it really does not feel like a team that is, heading in the right direction right now. And you got these are the times where you have to find out how are you going to answer these questions moving forward and try to resolve these issues, because it's not good right now.
You'll hear from Beamer tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock on the halftime show, and we'll see what, if anything, has changed since Saturday and where his head's at with things going forward. We'll get into some of the other things that happened around college football. If it made you feel any better, Clemson did lose on Saturday, so we'll get into that coming up next. It is the extra point. Tyler Ed and Jack Belcher on your reaction Monday here on the game.
this from 55. The snap is off. It is on the way. It's got the distance.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Jack Belcher with you on your Reaction Monday here on the game. That was the call early on Saturday afternoon as the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets took down the, at the time, number 12 Clemson Tigers 24-21 on the flats there in Atlanta with a fire drill field goal, quite literally, as the seconds were waning off the clock. Aiden Burr kicks the 55-yard, which I believe was a program record, to be able to beat Clemson 24-21, dropping the Tigers to 1-2 to start the season.
That was a great kick. I mean, like kind of one that you watch and it's like, oh man, is this thing gonna go in? Because it's kind of going to the right a little bit, and then hooks in. I mean, that was sick. I'm not gonna lie. And hearing it again, hearing the crowd reaction was wild. And I mean, I think I've been saying it for a few weeks now. Like I just have not been super confident in Clemson, and I circled this game as one that I think they were going to lose just because, again, the ACC schedule is not super, super tough. It is a little bit now with the way Florida State's been playing and stuff, and obviously Georgia Tech, but Clemson has just not looked very good through these first few weeks, and that was certainly the case again on Saturday. A lot of issues here in the Palmetto State with Carolina and Clemson just not really playing great football to start the year.
Well, and for the third straight game, Clemson had at least one notoriously bad half of football. Played a bad second half against LSU. Played a bad first half against Troy last week. Played another bad first half this week against Georgia Tech, to the point where they were down 13-0. They did ultimately score a touchdown right before halftime on a fourth down, no less. They cut the lead to 13-7, and then they drive down the field, start the second half good, and they throw a pick in or Kate Klubnik throws a pick in the red zone. They were able to eventually take the lead 14-3, but Georgia Tech comes storming back, and Tech gets the ball for the final time and is able to win with the walk-off field goal. And Dabo Swinney had 2 timeouts, right? So Georgia Tech ran their play that set up the field goal. That was on third down. Like, they kicked on third down, and there was about 20-ish seconds left on the clock. And Dabo opted to not use any timeouts, to where, think about this, if he decides to call a timeout with about 20 seconds left, they get the kickoff, you're at least getting the ball back with one more timeout in around, 15 seconds, to where maybe you could do something. It's better than not having the ball at all. Or you call a timeout, Georgia Tech misses the kick, you're now set up at midfield with only, 15 or so yards, 20 so yards to go to get your kicker into range with another timeout. You could have done so much there with those last couple seconds, and they just opted not to do it. And I know Dabo Swinney's been doing this for a long time. You don't get to keep those timeouts for next week. You use them or lose them, and they didn't use them, and it could have potentially cost them the game.
It did. I mean, it's part of it, but at the same time, Clemson at times just did not play very well in this game. Can we just say this straight up? Cade Klubnik's a mediocre quarterback. I mean, what is up with the hype around him heading into the year? Matter of fact, what's up with the hype around Clemson heading into this season? What warranted them being a top 5 team in the country heading into the season? It's not like their roster was significantly different compared to last year. Same quarterback, same group of receivers. You lost Phil Maffa. Their run game obviously has not looked tremendous through the first portion of the year. It was probably at its best on, Saturday. But again, a lot of those yards were accounted for by Klubnik and what he can do in the ground game with 62 yards and a touchdown. Adam Randall has his best game so far. But again, a lot of pieces back, but kind of the same team as last year. I mean, losing games that, are not, a little bit surprising, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they didn't look good against LSU. Did not look great against Troy, and then this weekend it kind of just all culminated in them losing a game that you go on the road and you're not playing your best football, you are going to get beat.
Well, that was an example of a kicker making a kick at the end of regulation to win. Later on Saturday, this happened in Knoxville.
Drives it. It's fading. And he missed it wide to the right.
That was the call at the end of regulation as Tennessee attempting to win the game with a last-second field goal by Max Gilbert. Ends up missing it wide, and they run the game at overtime. Georgia ends up winning with a touchdown in the first overtime period by Josh McCray, the Illinois transfer, after a review overturned what looked to be a call short of the goal line. And once again, Josh Heupel's Tennessee team gets up on Georgia early. Dogs come storming back. Give credit to Tennessee because they did take the lead back. But at the end of the day, this is the 9th straight time that Georgia was able to beat Tennessee. And this looked like Tennessee's best chance. And unfortunately, thanks to a very bad kick at the end of the game, they came up short once again.
For whatever reason, it's been, since 2016 now?
Yep.
Tennessee can just not beat Georgia. And, you and I were watching that game, sitting there and watching that missed field goal. And it's like that was Tennessee's opportunity to do so. And I'm thinking, this is going to be I think it was, 2022 against Alabama?
Yep.
Where they had the walk-off field goal and they stormed the field and stuff. I was thinking, all right, same thing is going to happen here. It was a long field goal, but at the end of the day, missed the field goal. You give Georgia some new life. And when you get a field goal in the first overtime, you're basically begging for Georgia to go down and score, and of course they did. And it took a few minutes with the review and stuff, but I mean that place was rocking most of the day and then silent at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I think this is a game where Georgia's offense really had to go out there and make plays, namely Gunnar Stockton, who's, been questioned about how good he is as a quarterback, and this is his first true road start. And for a guy whose prowess is not throwing the ball down the field very well, I thought it was the gutsiest of gutsy calls to go on 4th and 6 where you were down 38-30 to have him throw into the end zone, not even just throw to the sticks, throw to the end zone for a over-the-shoulder to London Humphreys to extend the game basically at that point in time. Gutsy call, it ended up working out, but I think Gunnar Stockton grew up a lot in that game and proved to some people that he can play ball. Now, again, is he as good as some of the previous quarterbacks? Probably not. But he made plays when he needed to make plays on Saturday. I'll say that much.
No, he definitely did. He impressed me in a lot of ways. And, coming into this game, I'm like, all right, Joey Aguilar is clearly the better quarterback. And maybe in terms of the passing stats, he definitely was. I mean, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also had 2 interceptions in this game.
Some ugly interceptions.
Yes.
That's been the knock on him is when he does throw a pick, it's usually pretty bad.
That's the thing. Gunnar Stockton, no interception in this game. 304 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Very solid performance. The ground game also, again, like you said, with Josh McCray, former Illinois guy, Nate Frazier, very good on the ground. Who had that one? Who had that one touchdown that kind of got Georgia going? Was it Zachariah Branch, the one where?
Oh yeah, on the screen.
Yeah, the screen where Tennessee could just not make a tackle for whatever reason. I mean, you look at plays like that, and it's like at the end of the day, they didn't make enough plays when they needed to. At the end, they missed the field goal, made a field goal in overtime when they needed to get a touchdown probably. At the end of the day, it's plays like this as well where, Branch just goes home free to the end zone. It's like, you got to make a tackle there.
Yep. So that's how things went down. And the biggest game of the weekend where College Game Day was, elsewhere in Blacksburg, things went real bad real fast, and the Brent Pry era has officially come to an end for the Virginia Tech Hokies. They fall to 0-3 to start the season. What does Coach Beamer have to say about the Virginia Tech job now that it's open? We'll let you hear that coming back as we wrap up hour number 2 of the Extra Point on your Reaction Monday. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on the game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Reaction Monday on the game. Tonight, got Monday Night Football between Tampa Bay and Houston, which you'll be able to listen to right here on the game. Wild weekend of NFL, which we haven't even gotten to today, and hopefully we'll get into tomorrow and Wednesday as well. But you can catch the wrap-up of the weekend. Doubleheader tonight, by the way, on ESPN if you're going to check out Monday Night Football. One of the bigger headlines of the weekend in college football was Virginia Tech after a 45-26 loss to Old Dominion, where they found themselves down 28-0 at halftime. Decided to move on from Brett Pry, who started the season 0-3. Of course, his first two losses, both to South Carolina and Vanderbilt, before dropping to ODU on Saturday. We knew he was very much on the hot seat going into the season, and it did not take long for them to decide that they needed to start focusing on their future with somebody else, and he woke up Sunday morning and was unemployed.
I mean, are we surprised at all?
No, that program has been in bad shape for a while.
When they were down 28-0, I'm like, yeah, that's it. There's no way you're keeping him. What's the reason? Get on with it. Move on from him. Pay him his money. Do the buyout, whatever you got to do, and move on, because that program is a disaster right now. And the way he talked in his post-game press conference would make you feel like this is a guy that's treating it like he's a first-year head coach, and like things are just now starting to get bad. No, it's been like this for a while now, ever since he took over. And like you said earlier to me, Tyler, the first game of his tenure at Virginia Tech started with a loss to Old Dominion, and so it's fitting that it ends with a loss to Old Dominion this past weekend.
So, of course, with the connections to the Beamer family, the question gets asked of, okay, does Beamer have any interest in the Virginia Tech job? Last night on the teleconference that he had with you guys, he addressed that job now being open.
Not really. I think the week of the Virginia Tech game, I told everyone how I feel about South Carolina and my love for this place, and that's where my focus is right now, is getting our football team better, because I don't like where we are right now, and that's my responsibility, and I've got to get it better without a doubt, and confident that we will. And then I hate it for Brent. He's somebody that I've known for since I was in college and have a lot of respect for, and days like this in the coaching profession suck, because that's a good man with a family that's got daughters about the age of my daughters, and I know how hard losing is on your family. Seeing that right now with mine, but different too when a guy loses his job also. So feel for Brent and the people that I know on that staff, and hate that decision was made.
And look, I don't think Beamer really entertains this job opportunity. I don't think he'd have any reason to leave where he's at now, because if you went to Virginia Tech, you'd be starting completely from scratch. And people may not remember this, but when your coach gets fired in season, or when a coach gets fired in general, you have a 30-day open portal window now. So Virginia Tech players can literally leave today and go start trying their careers somewhere else. So you're talking about taking over a completely gutted program that I don't know where their resources stack up, but I imagine they're probably not the highest in the ACC. You'd be leaving, a gated community for, not like a cardboard box, but certainly not as nice of a place as you're at right now.
And you're in the SEC. We've heard Shane Zogavad many a times now over the years that this is the best conference in college football, and you're playing the best competition every single week, and there's nothing like it. And so why would you want to leave that for the ACC? And yes, it's your alma mater, but at the same time, this is... Remember, back in the Any Given Saturday documentary, there's that moment where he talks about his dad and Virginia Tech, and how at Virginia Tech he's Frank's son, but here at South Carolina he's trying to build his own legacy and stuff. So I just don't see him going back. I mean, there's money talks. Money is very it can be influential in a lot of ways in making decisions, but he's making good money here at South Carolina and living a great life, and obviously the results in the field need to be a little bit better this season. But right now I would say there's no way he would go to Virginia Tech. I'd be stunned if he went.
Now, that being said, Virginia Tech's absolutely going to call him. They'd be dumb not to.
you have to, it's obligatory to make that phone call. Like, you have to make that call and just see what he says. I mean, you won't know unless you try.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't have any fears that Beamer's going to go anywhere. I'm certainly not Virginia Tech, as that program tries to figure whatever its next step is right now. But when you fire your coach 3 games into the year and you have the ability for a lot of players to transfer out, you're punting on the season. So, and again, unfortunately for South Carolina, that means the one quality win you have right now is worth next to nothing, because that program is going to be really, really bad this year. And I don't think you're going to be able to hang your hat on that win at all.
But the good news is you do have a lot of opportunities here to pick up some quality wins.
You do.
The thing is, man, you also have a chance to lose a lot of these games. So you hope for South Carolina's sake. Look, they go to Missouri this weekend. They have not won in Como since 2017. I mean, I was a senior in high school that year. Were you still in college or already graduated?
Yeah, I was still in college.
So, look, it's been a while, man. You hope that you can get right back on track this weekend, because you have a lot of the fan base kind of worried about where things are at right now. But you pick up a win this weekend, you start to make it feel like, okay, that was just a one-off. Hopefully things are starting to get better now.
A lot of things we didn't get to today that we will get to tomorrow. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Your Reaction Monday rolls along here on The Game. 11 o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you on probably one of the least fun Mondays of the entire season, that being the Monday after our first loss. But Carolina did, unfortunately, fall to Vanderbilt 31-7 on Saturday night over at Williams-Brice Stadium. And they'll drop to 0-1 in conference play. And there's a lot about this game to get into over the course of the next hour. Obviously, the biggest story being losing Lenora Sellers and not being able to figure things out in a lot of ways after that. But at the end of the day, you've lost one game, still got 9 more to go in the regular season. But nevertheless, not a fun Monday to be here. All things considered.
Not fun at all. And this was bound to happen at some point. People did not want it to happen this early in the year. People did not want it to happen against Vandy, even though we warned, hey.
It's not your granddad's Vanderbilt
Not your granddad's Vandy, your great-granddad's, probably not even your dad's Vandy. This was a team that we said, hey, you cannot bring a C game, even at home, at night, and expect to win this. And frankly, Carolina didn't even get close to that offensively, to that grade over the course of the entire game. And so there's a lot to unpack here. But I do think, look, that's where you've got to start. First of all, to touch on Sellers, Shane Beamer, after the game, Shane Beamer last night during his teleconference, which happens at 5 p.m. Eastern on Sunday night, said they were optimistic about getting Sellers back. Hopefully that's the case. I think it is. I think that there have been some encouraging signs about him playing in the next game at Missouri. Certainly you need him. But that, I think that there's things in all phases of the game that we can unpack about this game, Wes. But I think you've got to start, obviously, offensively, because when you look up at the scoreboard at the end of the game, there's 7 points on the board. And when you're playing SEC competition, that's not going to cut it. You're not going to win any SEC game putting 7 points on the board. And that's where the conversation, I think, has been dominated, and rightfully so, as you look at this game.
Yeah, and I mean, guys, I'm not sure that anybody really wants to even hear this part, but I do think you have to look at this game as in terms of on offense, at least, if you're going to analyze what went right, what went wrong. There's kind of a clear point, in my opinion, between when Sellers was in there and then when Sellers was not. And, you can say, well, hey, they scored 7 points regardless. They were losing the game 14-7 regardless. Yeah, all true things, but I think the way Vanderbilt shortens the game, you got to go back and look. Hey, you had basically 3 drives with the Lenora Sellers in the game. You had the touchdown drive, probably one of the better drives you've had all season. Second drive, much of the same. You moved the ball, another, kind of just balanced drive where you're hitting throws. You have the running game going a little bit. I thought Rasul Faison looked as comfortable as he has all year long. And then you throw the pick, which I think ended up just being a massive play early on in the game in terms of momentum. Third drive, you kind of had some of the things that have been an issue for you throughout the year in terms of just shooting yourselves in the foot. The bad snap for a sack. There was a substitution penalty that I think just drives you crazy if you're a coach. Lack of attention to detail. But even that drive, guys, you kind of erased the first set of mistakes by hitting a explosive pass to Harbor for first down on 3rd and long. Then you have, you get into a 3rd and 33 situation where it's just, you're not going to convert that. But point being, was it perfect? No. Were there some signs of life when Sellers was in the game? Yes. You only had those 3 drives. He gets knocked out of the game on the 4th drive of the game, the first play of that drive. And then, you move the ball even that first drive that Doty's in there. You get down there in field goal range, end up having to settle for a long field goal. And to me, that right there was kind of a microcosm of what we saw the entire second half. If you want to throw in the interception there on the second drive, it's a microcosm of much of the game where you have South Carolina moving the ball on offense. They moved the ball inside the 20s. They were able to stay on the field just long enough to where you're not having these situations like you had last week where you're going 3 and out 3 times to start the game. But ultimately, to me, it came down to something we all talked about going in. Third down efficiency, the idea of can you stay on the field on the money downs? And in these close games, it's going to come down to third downs. It's going to come down to red zone. It's going to come down to turnovers. And South Carolina, I will throw fourth downs into that as well. South Carolina did not execute well enough in those money downs, those key situations to go win this game, whereas Vanderbilt did.
Yeah, so Carolina had 10 total drives in the game. 7 of those drives, they were able to cross the 50-yard line. 6 times they got inside of the Vanderbilt 35. Of course, you only come away with with 1 touchdown, 1 score during that entire period of time. So it goes back to execution because, again, it wasn't like the beginning of the SC State game where you just kept going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. That we're able to move the ball a little bit, but for a multitude of reasons, as you got deeper into Vanderbilt territory, that's when things started to fall apart. And part of that, the drive where Sellers made didn't see the dropping nose tackle, made the incorrect read, whatever it may be. You threw an interception where you could have had a score there to tighten the game up a little bit more. And again, then when Doty gets in there, he makes some bad throws, has the fumble as well. And again, that's just kind of the story of what the night was offensively for South Carolina.
Yeah, I think to look at it, there's way more than 2 ways to look at it, but I think one thing that people have keyed in on, which I agree with, is, okay, we all know Lenoris Sellers is your guy. He's the starter for a reason. He's one of the most dynamic players in the country. And so it's quite obvious that when he's not in the game and he's not a factor, not able to be a factor, that you're going to lose something there. But a couple things. I mean, first of all, through 2 games and then the little part that he played in this game, it hasn't been good enough, right? Even with him. And then secondly, you're looking at it going, all right, even with a backup quarterback, you've got to be able to go in there and generate more offense. And at times they moved the football, but there were too many mistakes. And the biggest one is you got no points after Lenoris Sellers went out. And so you can't be – when you have a guy like Lenoris Sellers, you're going to rely on him, and frankly, you should rely on him because of his unique skill set and talents. But you can't be so overly reliant on him that you're counting on him when he is in the game to, hey, just go make something happen, and that's kind of the default. And when he isn't in the game, you have to be able to generate more in terms of the offense, right? Now, it's a 1 game. For Luke Doty, it's a 3-quarter sample size, right? For the Lenoris Sellers offense with Mike Shula at the helm for this season, it's 2 games and a quarter of another game, but hasn't been good enough. So I think the question that we can't answer is, had Lenoris Sellers played this entire game, would the offense have turned that corner? Because, again, we've got Wes just laid out in detail what the drives were. The first one, can't get any better. You scored a touchdown. The second one, you're driving, you're down at, the 14-yard line, you throw a pick. And then the third one, you see a lot of the same stuff that we've been seeing this season, self-inflicted wounds, penalties, negative plays, etc., and that ends up hurting you. So if your argument is, even with Sellers in the game, I just don't see it, they weren't going to do enough on offense, again, that may be your opinion. We can't prove it one way or another. We know it's got to get better. And so you can say it's Wes's, both things can be true. Offensively, they did some pretty good stuff at the beginning of the game. If you go back and look at what Clark Lee said, he said, yeah, they had us on our heels. I mean, they went out and scored, second drive, got us on our heels. We go make a play. Game starts to turn there. When can this offense, when they get Sellers back, flip the switch? Because look at Virginia Tech. We now know they're not a good football team, right? They're 0-3. Brent Pry is gone 3 games into the season. South Carolina State, no disrespect, MEAC team. Through those 2 games, even with Sellers in the fold, we didn't see enough. We did see, Wes, South Carolina open things up more in terms of their usage of Sellers. I imagine we'll see that more going forward. How much will that help? I think that's one of the key questions going forward. But they got to clean up so much offensively, going forward to have some success.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to be fair, I thought it was probably 2 of the best back-to-back drives of the season to start this game, just in terms of the usage of Sellers, the flow of the offense, just getting him involved. not even to me, that doesn't necessarily have to mean running him, but getting him involved in the throw game early on. Like I feel like a good portion of the first couple of games of the year, it was them trying to be just kind of hard-headed with the traditional running game, with the running back running game, and trying to establish that, and then putting the pressure on him to, if I'm in a 3-down sequence, I have to complete this one pass for us to stay on the field. And if anything goes wrong, a guy runs the wrong route, protection breaks down, or in some cases, to be fair, I, being Sellers, make a bad throw. Hey, we're off the field, and here you go. I love the fact that they came out under center, play action, get him in rhythm, throw the football, intermediate ball to Jordan Dingle. I thought maybe Jordan was one of the few kind of shining moments, like bright spots from this game. He was heavily involved, the most involved he's been. But I liked the early on approach. I thought it was much different than the approach that we saw for the first 2 games in terms of Sellers' usage. To your point, we will never know, hey, could that continue? What would it look like moving forward? Would they have shot themselves in the foot like they did in the 3rd drive of the game, and it just would have been ugly regardless? Who knows? All I know is they're different with 16 in there, and I'm curious, what did y'all think of the overall response to the loss of Lenora Sellers? In my opinion, I didn't think – I'm not saying it was a lack of effort. I thought guys were running to the football. I thought they were trying. I don't think it – when you say somebody quit, you're talking about effort. This was not that. Now, to me, though, it just felt different after he exited the game. And I'll put that on offense and defense. To me, I don't know if the belief wasn't quite there. I don't know what it was, but just the vibes felt different without Lenora Sellers running this offense and running this team in terms of being your lead by example guy.
Yeah, it felt like the air kind of got taken out a little bit. Again, in a situation, and we'll get to Doty a little bit more specifically here in a moment, but that's kind of one of those things. You say, okay, how are you going to pick up a guy like Luke Doty coming in this tough spot, trying to lead this offense? And that's where you want to rely on other guys in the offense to really step up and make plays, and nobody really did, unfortunately. And, defense had its sloppy moments, missing tackles, those kind of things, not playing good assignment football. Like, the entire team just didn't feel like, there was that fire under them of like, hey, we've lost our best player. Let's go out there and pick them up and try and narrow the gap here. It was a just ugly night overall, especially once Sellers went out.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think you're right, Wes, on that thought that USC just didn't respond as well. I think just from top to bottom, defensively, I think some of the issues that we saw in the first half, 3rd down defense. I think Vandy was 5 of 7 on 3rd downs. They had some 4th down conversions. You saw I think overall in the game they were 6 for 12. So Carolina actually got a little better on 3rd downs, but explosive plays. They had 10 missed tackles in the game, but if you kind of look at that, that's the PFF number, 10 missed tackles, but they were very consequential. It wasn't you missed a tackle at the line of scrimmage and then the next guy got him 1 yard down the field. You had some big missed tackles, some big, some bigger chunk plays that were given up. Pavia did Pavia things. Vandy got a little bit fortunate that they didn't have, I think a couple more turnovers in the game. So everything just, I think, snowballed on you if you're Carolina. Even when Doty came in, they hit some plays in the passing game, but, self-inflicted wounds, turnovers later in the game. Yes, some of them when the game was, you could argue, out of hand. Yes. But still didn't give yourself a chance to really get back in the game. So I think just a snowball of bad for the Gamecocks. And, yeah, a lot of it happened, when Lenore Sellers went out of that game.
We'll continue to break this down. Also get to some of your thoughts as well on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls on, and your reaction Monday here on the game.
All right, our friends over at Game Day Men's Health helps men reclaim their vitality by optimizing their hormone levels. They specialize in TRT, or testosterone replacement therapy, that can help you boost your energy and strength. So if you're a guy listening out there and you've had trouble with fatigue, sleepless nights, muscle loss, weight gain, any of those unwanted symptoms, go get checked out at Game Day Men's Health. That's 115 Atrium Way, conveniently located in Northeast Columbia near I-77 and 2 Notch Road. They specialize, of course, specifically in men's health. They have comfortable man cave style clinics, complete with TV and refreshments. Same-day appointments available for fast, convenient care. They'll get you tested with in-house labs, and you can get your results in 15 minutes or less with a personalized consultation. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com to learn more, or give them a call, 803-265-3161, Game Day Men's Health.
Just move the ball down the field, put together a good drive. Obviously, you hate to see your starting guy, the guy that commands the offense go down. But it's on me to stay ready, and my mindset going into it was just put together a drive, get first downs, move the ball down the field, and feel like we did a good job of that pretty much all night. Just putting drives together, being consistent in the pass game. Just got to be better in a lot of areas on my part, and just as an offense as a whole.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you on your reaction Monday here on the game. That was Luke Doty after the game on Saturday, giving an assessment of how he thought he played when thrust into having to play basically a little over half the game when Sellers went down just before halftime. And again, Luke Doty has done everything asked of him in his now 6 years at South Carolina. Spent a couple years as a wide receiver. Obviously was put into the backup role. In the offseason when Beamer said, hey, if Sellers went down for any reason early in the season, then Doty's going to be our guy. And that's obviously what ended up happening there. And, you give credit to Doty for going out there and trying his best. That's a tough situation to come in for anybody. I do think it's interesting, though, and Beamer did allude to this in his teleconference last night. There was thought given to playing Aaron Noland and or Cutter Woods later in the game. They decided to not do that. There could be a multitude of reasons for why that might be the case, but they rode with Doty the entire time. Again, a lot of those drives ended up in turnovers or just having turnovers on downs, and it didn't go the way that you wanted to. Again, hopefully Sellers is back this weekend, but again, you tip your cap for Doty for trying his best, but obviously didn't end up being what it needed to be.
Yeah, there were a lot of calls during the game, and there was conversation on Gamecock Central and on social media during the game and certainly after the game. Hey, why not give somebody else a chance? And I think if you listen to Beamer's answer, the way he answered that, I mean, I think you could take it either way. You could say, okay, his answer made sense from the standpoint that Luke Doty's still the only person on the roster that's taken a snap. When he goes in the game, it's a tight game. The game is very much in the balance. He's a 6-year guy who's the only guy on the roster who's actually played quarterback. And the staff felt that he won the job, not just by default, but based on what they had seen also in practice. He may say that's the wrong decision. But again, they're out there looking at it every day. That was their judgment. That was their determination. I think people maybe have more of the opinion that if not immediately, why not later, right? Why not after a few drives when the offense isn't generating anything, put somebody else in there? And you know what? I mean, if you argue that, fair argument, you can, in hindsight, go back and look and say, maybe it's better with another quarterback out there. But I think the staff made that decision because they felt like, hey, Luke is most comfortable. He's played. He's the most experienced guy. Put him out there. He gives us the best chance. Obviously, it didn't work out because South Carolina didn't win the game. South Carolina didn't put any more points on the board.
Yeah, and I think, guys, if you look at, again, drive by drive, they're probably going, okay. And I thought Luke made some good throws. I think, again, much like even what we've seen from the offense a lot of times this year, with 16 in there, it just was not efficient enough overall. Like the really good offense is you're going to execute enough plays throughout kind of that course of a drive that not only are you going to move the ball, you're going to get down there and you're obviously going to be able to score. And it was like they were executing it well enough to move the ball, but not well enough to complete the drive. And I think they're probably looking at it, though, throughout the course of the game. Luke comes in. This is the kind of 2-minute drill situation at the end of the half, right? If you're Beamer, you're going, first of all, our guy threw a dart to Harbor on the play that was blown dead. That could have gone for a much longer game potentially. And Luke, I mean, to me, looked dialed in, looked confident, looked comfortable. He drives you down for a field goal. You're going second drive. All right, it was a 3-and-out, but we got 9 yards. Could have maybe gone for it on 4th and 1, but you didn't want to take that risk early on. Now you're down. Let's see. You're down 2 scores at this point, but you're going, we're not going to give up on this yet. And that next drive, what happens? You drive the ball into Vanderbilt territory again, and you get stopped on a 4th and 1 in that situation. So I could see how at that point the conversation is probably, look, like Doty's not really the issue at this point. Like, yeah, you could maybe say, hey, maybe one of these other guys could spark this thing. But Doty, I don't think was necessarily the issue at that point. And then my thing is maybe once you get this thing to 24-7, and then certainly once it becomes 31-7, do you get one of those guys in? Not that you ever publicly concede the game, but let's be honest, you're not coming back at that point. Do you get one of those other guys in there to go play? It's easy to say after, the fumble and after, a late interception and all those things, why didn't you put somebody else in? I don't think, that Luke was perfect by any means. He honestly, it was just a little bit off in terms of some of his completions on the short throws were not accurate enough to where that guy's able to catch the ball and get moving forward. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you're going to throw those short balls like that, you need to be able to let your receiver catch it in stride. So they're completions, but they don't really allow you to get the big gain off of the completions in terms of run after catch. So I don't know. Would have been interesting to see what somebody else could have done at some point. Yes. Luke had earned your backup quarterback job for a reason. If you just truly look at how the game was playing out, as opposed to after the fact being like, we got hammered, why didn't you put somebody else in? But I don't know if you conceivably would make that move until you started getting, probably you'd start making that argument maybe mid-fourth quarter, in my opinion.
It is Reaction Monday. Keith, we'll get to you on the other side as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along here on the game.
All right, y'all, as we continue rolling through the college football season, make sure that your home is set up to optimize your viewing experience. Our friends over at Integrated Media, Michael, Nathan, they can help you do anything that you may need from a tech or audiovisual standpoint out at your home. If you've been thinking about that man cave, if you're having trouble with your streaming, if you have a question about what the best streaming service is, what the best TV equipment, wireless speakers, having problems with your internet, they can come out to your home, do a full rundown, see what you want, and they can make it happen. They've done it at my home. They've been to Wes's home. They can do it out at yours, too. Check out some examples of their past work on social media, Instagram or Facebook, Integrated Media Columbia, or you can go to their website for more info, integratedmediainc.com. Everything from mounting televisions, wireless speakers, to complete smart home solutions where you can control everything from the touch of a button on your smartphone. 803-948-8327, Integrated Media.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris, along with you here on your Reaction Mondays. We break down Carolina's 31-7 loss to the Vanderbilt Commodores on Saturday over at Williams-Brice Stadium. We, of course, want to hear your thoughts as well, and we head back out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines as Keith's been hanging on for a bit. Keith, appreciate your call this morning. What is on your mind?
Good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, I'm not going to go piling on Doty. I think a lot of us were very optimistic and hopeful. And the reality is, offensively, defensively, the talent, I'm not saying there's not talent, but it's pretty plain, Jane, that the talent level is nowhere near what it was last year. But y'all talked enough on offense. I went back yesterday like you did, watched it, got my little pen out. I counted 14 missed tackles, and I was being generous. I guess the biggest disappointment to me during the game was the fact that we watched tape on what they did the week before, and it just made me realize that our linebackers bought into the eye candy. Our secondary, I thought, had a terrible game. And it didn't seem like we adjust during the game. Maybe we tried to and just couldn't. But I know the defensive coordinator, he's deserved not to be hit too hard. But I just thought it was a pitiful all-around defensive performance. Yeah, I don't even need to talk about the offense, but it was just a total team. It was just hard to figure out, but I really enjoy listening to y'all. And, you know, I'm hopeful, but if you go and look this weekend, how many SEC teams scored over 30-something points? If you don't score 30 points in the SEC, I doubt you're going to win a game. So, just thoughts. And y'all have a great day and always great show.
Yeah, man, Keith, we appreciate it. Again, 803-404-6100. So we'll use that as an opportunity to kind of transition over to the defense now because we've talked plenty about the offense. And, yeah, it wasn't a great night overall. And, again, Pro Football Focus only credited South Carolina with 10 missed tackles. But, Chris, like you pointed out earlier, it seemed like when they did miss a tackle, it was pretty consequential to where Vanderbilt was able to bust off, 7-8 more yards, if nothing else, on those kind of plays. You also had the situation where Lassiter took the handoff and basically got untouched 44 yards in the end zone. So not a great night overall. We knew that Vanderbilt had the ability to win in the trenches with their offensive line in terms of getting off the ball, which I thought they did a pretty good job of. And then, this isn't, again, as we talked about, your dad or granddad's Vanderbilt team that is going to go, 3-9 on this year. They're going to win some games, and they may very well knock off a couple of really, really good, really good teams in the process. So you do have to tip your cap to them to some degree. And I thought Tim Beck schemed up a really good game. Mm-hmm. They tried to go away from Dylan Stewart as much as possible as that game wore on, which is obviously the smart thing to do because he's the best player that that South Carolina has on defense, and that obviously frustrated Dylan Stewart as the night wore on. But it's kind of a situation of Carolina didn't play their best game defensively, and Vanderbilt played a really good game offensively on the other side.
Yeah, I think people, which is understandable, right? People don't want to hear, hey, the other team does a really good job schematically, they present challenges, because the answer to that, of course, is do better than them, right?
Yep.
And that is a very valid point. But, look, we knew that this Vanderbilt team was going to pose some challenges. Every week you go into a game, that's the point of us doing this show and writing, is to analyze a game going into it and coming out of it. What do we think happens? What did happen? And we knew coming in, this is a really experienced team. Offensively, their style makes it really hard on you. They, like you said, Tyler, a lot of eye candy, a lot of pre-snap movement, a lot of, just screens and play action and getting guys in space. And then you got Diego Pavia, who's a magician, at times. And he's a dog. He's going to make plays where you've got him hemmed in and he does some play that you've never seen before in football. Like, how did he even think to do that, right? And we saw a little bit of that. He also with that is going to make some mistakes. We saw them throw the pick. They got lucky, frankly, on a couple other plays. But they make it hard. So you know that they're going to – and they're very experienced, and they have some legit talent. You know, if you look up and down their star rankings, no, they're not loaded up like in Alabama, but they've done a good job in the portal and developing guys and evaluating guys, bringing them into their program. So it is a challenge. Now, I think some of that showed through. I think Carolina got their eyes wrong at times. I think some of those concerns that you had going into this game when you play a team like that showed. The most disappointing thing was probably exactly what Keith hit on, and that was the missed tackles, which, again, if you go through and you have 10, even 14, the number Keith has, you can go through and look at a lot of SEC games and have that many missed tackles and still look back and say, we played pretty well, depending on how it goes. The issue is a lot of those missed tackles were in very tough situations. It was out in space. It was a one-on-one. You had the shovel pass where you play it perfectly. You have 3 defenders around the guy, and nobody gets him. And then it's a big chunk play and a first down. So I think that was the biggest issue. This defense, I think, through 2 weeks, probably played better than any of us thought that they would. Those problems didn't show through, but the question was, when you get into SEC play, starting with Vandy, will they show? And there were certainly some problems there to correct, too. I also think that the offense's inability to help the defense more throughout the game through playing complementary football, that also hurt. And Vandy was able to do, Wes, exactly what you kind of warned that they like to do going into that game, and that is be good on third down, extend drives. Their first 2 drives for touchdowns, 75-yard touchdown drives. It's not what you want to see.
Yeah, and I think Keith made some really good points there. I don't know that I agree in terms of just overall lack of talent, like Keith said. I mean, there's talent for this team on both sides of the ball. Dylan Stewart, he's going to be a first-round pick, probably a top 10 pick conservatively. There's talent in that secondary. Fred J.R. Johnson at linebacker, super talented guy. There's talent on this team. I do think what he said, though, about the linebackers and their keys and getting their eyes out of the right places. I haven't watched a all 22 copy of the film here, but watching it live and then rewatching some of it yesterday, there's probably some truth to that. Some of that, I imagine, just quite frankly, is Vanderbilt scheming you up a little bit, man. Like they did a great job of detailing it on the broadcast. Vandy's fourth down that they converted, where they went play action and got the ball out into the flats, where you had Fred J.R. Johnson. He's in conflict. He's having to play the run first, and then he's having to try to get out to the flats and cover that receiver. And it's just a lot of ground to cover when you're having to think and you're having to process something like that. So yeah, I do think there was a little bit of, hey, this is SEC play now. We're playing a good scheme, pretty talented overall, especially compared to recent years, Vandy offense. And, I think it was a learning experience for this defense. Chris, I'm kind of with you, man, on the complimentary football. I know Shane Beamer kind of pushed back on Elijah when he basically asked about, did the defense get worn down? They only played, 66 plays or something, I think Beamer said. Maybe they weren't physically worn down, but when you're just asked to go back out there time after time again, it does ultimately weigh on a defense. And again, not that there's not, there's blame to put on them as well. We talked about this on the podcast this morning. There were a couple plays from Vanderbilt that were there to be made that Vandy did not make. Like it could have gotten worse, because you had a couple of deep balls that were open and Pavia just missed them. So, I don't think the defense was exposed by any means, and, they'll adjust, but I do got to imagine that was probably not the most fun film review on Sunday, because here's the thing. We know their mindset. Their mantra is put the ball down. The entire mantra that defense is built around is, we don't care what the offense is doing. We don't care what the field position is. We don't care if you've driven 74 yards we're going to stop you 1 yard short of 75 and a touchdown. And so to their own standard, they will probably say, hey, we did not live up to that on Saturday, even if you were kind of put in some, tough spots, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll come back. We'll share more thoughts on this, get some of your thoughts on the Firehouse Subs text line as well at 803-404-6100 as Reaction Monday rolls along here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on the Game.
injury-wise. Lenoris and Kaysen obviously did not finish the game last night. We're optimistic on both those guys for this week, and then fortunately no other injuries to report from last night.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris with you on your Reaction Monday here on the game. That was Coach Beamer last night on his weekly teleconference, giving the most recent injury update when it came to Lenore Sellers and also Kaysen Henry, who was lost early in the game on Saturday as well. And again, said optimistic. So we're hopeful. We're hopefully going to learn something more tomorrow. You'll get the availability reports that start coming out a little bit later on in the week. Obviously, concussions are very funny things that, can be a lot worse or maybe not as bad as you initially think and all those kind of things. But obviously hoping to get 16 back for this upcoming weekend for what we already knew was going to be the toughest test early on in the season, going to Como, a place that hasn't treated you well over the years. But now, given the fact that you're coming off of a loss and your margin for error just got that much thinner, it's going to be even tougher. So hopefully Sellers is good to go by the end of the week.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope, optimism there publicly, and I think too within the program that you can get him back. By the way, Tree Babalade guys played.
Yep.
When Kaysen went out, so everybody who was, I think that's gotten lost a little bit because some people are like, whatever, that's fine. Scored 7 points in the game, so that's gotten lost. But he did get in there, played some right tackle. Saw Nolan Hay come in later in the game.
And I'll
played
say
some
this,
center.
The offensive line, compared to the first two games, did play better. Like, that was probably their best performance out of the three so far.
Some people are getting very angry if you say that. You can say that without saying it was a good game.
Yeah, it wasn't phenomenal.
You don't have to say that.
It was better.
But yes, some of the things that you saw, particularly early, Sellers is in the game, I think were better. Even when he wasn't in the game, there were some things that were, I think, positive. So if you're looking for growth, you got to get better there. But there are so many different micro issues there when you're looking at the offense. That's just really one piece of it. But look, we know Sellers is he makes this offense go, and when you get him back in there, is he deployed in the same way that he was early against Vandy? And if you can do that, and you can eliminate some of the mistakes, and after the first drive or two of the game, when the other team starts to adjust, can you also adjust? Again, I know some people are looking at this thing saying, I've seen enough dating back to the bowl game and then 2 games and a quarter of Lenore Sellers in this offense, or even if you count when Doty came in, I've seen enough. But at some point, this offense has to take the next step, and you're going to need Sellers in order to do that. Like you said, Tyler, this is going to be a big test. Columbia, Missouri has been a tough place to play every year. It's been a tough matchup for South Carolina. They've lost more of these games than they've won lately. So it's going to be a tough matchup, to try to get the ship righted when you've got a lot of things that, frankly, you need to work on. You just need to not beat South Carolina sometimes as a starting point. You got to do that, and then you also have to go beat a Missouri team that I think is going to be very game for this challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Tyler. I kind of rewatching it, too. I thought the O-line played okay. It certainly wasn't like the single biggest issue in the game. Certainly wasn't as bad as it's maybe been during the first 2 games at times. You had, Faison did a little bit on his own, but certainly you gave him room to operate. He averaged just under 5 yards a carry. Attaway had the 1 carry for 6 yards, so, 6 yards a carry there. The overall rushing numbers don't look pretty when you start adding in all the other stuff, but in terms of individual effort, like room for those guys to go operate, thought it was okay. You did have a couple pass protection issues, and of course, the biggest being the one that got Sellers knocked out of the game. Unfortunately, it's not going to just be fixed overnight. So you are going to have some plays where pass pro just is not there. Overall, we'll see if they can keep making progress in that area. And I do think, as much as I will tell people not to panic, it's 3 games in. I mean, we saw this song and dance last year, and South Carolina righted the ship, rallied off 6 wins in a row. We've seen the movie before. That doesn't mean they can do it this time. And as much as I will tell people that, at the same time, you are set up just the way the schedule is this was a home SEC night game for you. As improved as Vanderbilt is, it's hard to win on the road in the SEC. And so I say that to say you need to hold serve when you have those opportunities. And South Carolina now obviously did not. You go into the year, you got 4 road ones, 4 home ones. Hold serve on the home ones as well as you can, because the road ones are going to be tough. Like, even if South Carolina was sitting there at 3-0 with a win over Vanderbilt, and there were no questions about Lenora Sellers' health, we would still be going among the first 5 games on paper. This is your most difficult one. Now you're going into this game with the context of the fans are getting restless. You have a lot of questions on offense, and now a season that had a ton of promise on paper, you were staring at 2-2 overall and an 0-2 start in SEC play. And you think it's negative this week, let that happen next week.
Yeah, obviously, tough Saturday out at Williams-Brice Stadium to have your first loss of the year. We don't have a ton of time in this, but last minute, Chris, I did want to ask your thoughts on how the officials handled Sellers getting taken out and then the subsequent next play starting to where they blew the whistle to review targeting that was targeting but could have prevented a big play did prevent a big play happening from Harbor.
I feel boxed in. Is this my identity now?
Yeah, can you do it in 60 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. I mean, Wes had timed it, right, Wes? I mean, and, you're a second.
Minute and a half.
Yeah, minute and a half it took, and then the whistle's blown, well after. It is just ridiculous. That was bad. And then, the roughing the passer calls. I mean, God, what are we doing here? Yeah. This is football. What are the guys supposed to do? I mean, Shane Beamer last night said, we sent in the 2 calls just to literally get feedback on how are we supposed to coach Brian Thomas Jr. when he's literally in the air to make a tackle?
Well, he's got to levitate. He's got to stop himself in midair, levitate over Diego Pavia. That's how that works.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's obvious. Easy.
Easy
fix.
You can tell rules are made by people that have never played football before.
Yeah. So it was a rough night for those guys. But
yeah, no doubt about it. Just, rough day all around. Obviously, still an entire 9 games left to go in the regular season. As Wes pointed out, they do play their better football as the season wears along, and that's where we got to put our hope in right now. But back to the drawing board and getting ready for a tough test this upcoming weekend against Missouri, which we'll get into certainly as the week goes along. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show, myself, Scott Hamilton, coming up as your Reaction Monday rolls along here on the game.